Hello and welcome to episode 1305 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Friday, June 7th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer. Joined this afternoon/morning. We're in that crossover territory by Justin Mason. Justin, good morning over there.
Good afternoon over there.
Thank you. How you doing?
Doing all right. I had my first softball game last night. Went 2 for 2. We lost in extras, which was a little brutal, but
That's painful.
I played well, and it's all about me. So what does it matter?
You take the Derek Bell outlook there, and I did my part. Where the hell are you, scrubs? But yeah, you were telling me a little bit about that. It was a tough loss because of some base running that maybe could have been avoided too.
Yeah.
So that's all right. Get them back next time. But let's talk some two starts. It's actually a tighter list this week, and I think a couple things at play here. Well, most importantly is when you get a bunch of teams starting to play five, that's going to do it. There are some rotations that are a little bit in flux. That's also, so a few factors here could maybe add some guys down the line. And then, of course, there's the studs that we just don't talk about. And there's there's like 7 or 8 of those too. So it's a big stud week for two steps and a handful of teams with some lighter schedules. Actually, I think I'm full of shit on that. Oh, no. Cincy and Cleveland, 5 games. Okay. I thought it was more than that, but there are 2 teams. I didn't just dream a couple 5-game weeks out there. So be careful with your Reds and your guards, at least, especially in NFBC during that Monday through Thursday period.
Mm-hmm.
They're each only playing 2 games. And depending how McKenzie pitches, which is kind of up in the air these days, sometimes good, sometimes bad. It's 4 pretty quality pitchers between Bybee, Lodolo, Green, and McKenzie. So the hitters you have are only playing 2 games against quality pitching. Might be a sit for some of those fringe guys. Like, Will Benson probably for me is going to sit. But let's get into the guys who are making 2 starts. Let's start with somebody I did not expect to have on the list at any point during the year. I figured he'd be kind of an automatic, but I think it's at least worth a check-in. You might still say Jordan Montgomery's automatically in your lineup, but you can't be fully confident. I would be surprised if you were without any concerns for Jordan Montgomery because things just haven't gone that well. 46 innings so far. The big tumble in strikeout rate from 21 to 14% is really bothersome, but also a 3% jump in walk rate from 6.2 to 9. So from 6 to 9, that's a big deal too for Jordan Montgomery. He's allowing a ton of hits with a 357 BABIP. Like nothing's going well. Do we stay the course here with Jormont, or are we looking to maybe sit him here, or are you cutting him in some spots? I'll point out Angels and White Sox. So there's some that appeal to draw you back in with Jordan Montgomery. But where do you stand, Justin?
I mean, if it was tougher matchups, I'd probably be either sitting or dropping at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, the velocity is an issue. He's down almost 2 miles an hour on the fastball. And I think that is causing a whole bunch of problems.
And we don't know this quickly. We don't know this for sure, but I'm curious your thoughts of how much this the lack of a season of a spring training impacted him. I guess it would just be too much of a guess, but like, where do you come out in that? Do you think, oh dang, if Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell had a regular season, or regular preseason, maybe they wouldn't be in the situations they're both in right now? Or is that just an easy thing to point to?
I think it's definitely got to be considered like a contributing factor at this point. But I mean, 2 miles an hour, we're not talking about like he's just one tick down. Like 2 miles an hour is like quite a bit.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, to be down. And the walks, have been really, really concerning as well. So, I mean, these 2 matchups for Montgomery, I don't know how you don't just roll him out there, but he's gone into like kind of my lowest tier of starting pitcher, for my 2-star article that I do, which is pretty much like, hey, feeling lucky, because I mean, like I think you have to roll him out there and hope you can sneak a dub or 2.
Yeah.
But at this point, like there isn't a ton in the profile where you're going, I'm feeling really, really confident. And then Snell's on the IL again. So I mean,
yep. Same injury flared back up too.
Yeah. So yeah, both these guys, I think I don't want to completely blame it on the the lost time, but it's, I think that has to be considered
There got to
a
be a
little
little
bit.
Occam's
Yeah.
razor there, right? Like,
Yeah.
we don't have to go searching for too many crazy answers. Sometimes it's right in front of your face, and that's where I'm kind of thinking that we might be here with both of them. And it is part of why I didn't draft him. Now, I didn't have this happening. Again, I'm not patting myself on the back saying I knew Montgomery and Snell were going to bust. But with Snell specifically, his price never really came down. He stayed as like a top 80, top 90 type guy overall, and that was too steep of a price. Montgomery's price was a bit more fair, but still not something I really wanted to dive head first into. White Sox Angels, I see some shots, 15s, maybe some 12s. The other part, though, too, you say you try to sneak a dub. I wish I had a bit more confidence in Arizona. Because, they're 3 games under. They're not playing their best. Corbin Carroll hasn't been good. But Montgomery is 3-4. So it's not like he's been devoid of putting himself in position to win. The tough part is, Justin, is, and I was looking up something while you were speaking, so if you said this, I apologize for repeating, but he did start off pretty well. It's these last couple starts that are particularly heinous for him. There was a dud against the Dodgers early. It was his 3rd start of the year. You maybe even skipped that one. If you did, you're stronger than me. I'm a play your studs kind of guy, so I stuck with Jormont. And then the next 4 starts were pretty decent. Even the 6-4 against the Tigers doesn't kill you. But then the Mets and Giants are the ones that crush him. 14 earned runs in 6 innings. And then, the velo drop. Now I'm wondering, like, are we just going to go to the IL here soon with Jormont? But as it stands, despite all that negativity, y'all, I still think I'm finding a spot in 15s because it's a 2-step, and 15 is so freaking hard. 12s and 10s, you got a lot more leeway to not take this unless you're really trying to YOLO some dubs and you feel more confident in Montgomery's health. That's the big thing right now is Justin and I are a bit concerned about his health profile. What about Spencer Schwellenbach for the Atlanta Braves? He gets a trip to Baltimore, which is scary for the team, but less so for the park. So it's kind of a mix now. I still don't love going there, but I never would have taken pictures there before. We've mentioned that a million times. And then Schwellenbach hosts the Rays after that. And they're kind of a up and down type of team that you're not terrified of, but you're not dying to face them with a rookie who has 1 decent start and then a pummeling in Fenway his last time out, 4 2/3, 6 runs on 9 base runners with 4 Ks. Where are you at on Schwellenbach in the deeper fronts? I think it's a non-starter in 10s, probably 12s, but let me know where you're at on 15s with Schwellenbach.
It's probably a non-starter for me everywhere outside of maybe 15s where you really just don't have any other options. I don't love going up against Baltimore in that offense. And I know Tampa Bay's been, a team you can kind of pick on. But it's at home, which isn't as good of a place to, face the Rays as opposed to being in Tampa Bay for that one. And I think he's just too raw. Like, I mean, this is a guy who skipped AAA and only had like 13 innings in AA before getting the call up. So I'm very, very tentative on using a guy that is that raw and really hasn't shown a ton in his first 2 starts for a 2-step here. I just worry he's going to get bludgeoned twice.
Yeah, that's exactly my fear here with Schwellenbach. The win upside is at least there if you're really okay taking the bludgeons on your ratio, or the bludgeonings probably on your ratios, and maybe try to snake a win, but it could go really south. I'm just not even sure that the juice is worth the proverbial squeeze. Let's go to Baltimore then, and the guy that he will be facing, and Schwellenbach will be facing in his start, is Albert Suárez. So he'll host Atlanta, and then he'll host Philly. So he hosts 2 very good teams, but Albert Suárez, the 34-year-old returning from the KBO, has been really nice, Justin. I mean, he's done some really good things. He made some noise in spring that put him on the radar, but then it was kind of like, well, where's he going to pitch because there's not any room? Unfortunately, injuries have created that room, but he's been a nice bastion for them since rejoining the rotation on May 25th. We now have 3 starts of a 1.93 ERA for Suárez with 16 base runners in 14 innings and 12 Ks, 5 walks. So where do we come out here with a couple of tough teams coming to visit Suárez in Baltimore?
The matchups are tough, but they're not. They're at least in Baltimore. When I originally wrote up my thing on Suárez today, I didn't realize. I thought he was. I thought he had Tampa also, but they have that wraparound series, and that's why the beginning of the week starts with Tampa. So I'm I'm pretty worried about the matchups, but Suarez himself has been really, really good.
Yeah,
He's
and
been a
good
really good.
support, right?
Yeah, and in a good park,
Yep.
you get that park kind of help you. So I think in tens, probably I'm avoiding the matchups, but in 12s and 15s, I think I would roll with him. Especially depending on what your other options are in a 12. But I think 15, like I don't know how you get away from him
No
with how well
chance.
he's pitched between the rotation and the bullpen. So
Yeah,
uh
if Suarez is on the team in a 15, I can't
yeah.
fathom why you'd be like, well, now I'm going to move on. Like, I get that the
Hmm.
matchups are tough, but you got to go for it. The tough part has been, though, with these 3 starts, 4, 5, and 5 innings, and he has 3 no decisions. So while he is in a good win probability zone because of the team he's on, Suarez himself hasn't necessarily gone too deep just yet to really kind of cash that in, but I'm still going to take the shot with it. In 15s for sure. 12s, I'm very open to it. 10s, I'm not fully against it. I just think you'll be able to go elsewhere. So, like, if you are in a tight 10 where deep reserves and things are really plucked, so maybe it plays more like a 12. That's the thing, too. We're giving general principles. If your 10 has such deep rosters that it essentially plays like a 12, 13, 14 team type league, well, then obviously you can start listening to the deeper league suggestions for those guys. And I can see some leagues like that for Suarez because I know some leagues that are 8, 10 teams, but they try to deepen the rosters to make up for it there. So there's not a million all-stars on the waiver wire. Erick Fedde, another KBO returner here, has found, his footing there with the White Sox. The problem is he's on the White Sox. That hasn't stopped him though. He's 4-1, 3.27 ERA, 118 WHIP. Things have gone well for Erick Fedde. He shouldn't be on this team too much longer, right? There's just no universe where they're going to keep a 31-year-old bit of found money, as it were, bringing him back over from the KBO. But as it stands right now, he's still with them, so he'll go to Seattle and Arizona on a little bit of a West Coast trip for the White Sox and Fedde. Where are we starting him? Because, or actually, 15s, I think it's another automatic. 12s and 10s. Are you getting there with Fedde? Because
Yeah.
while the White Sox suck, he does have 4 dubs.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a must start in all formats, honestly. I
Yeah,
mean,
it really feels
uh,
like it.
especially when you consider like the Mariners' offense hasn't completely clicked yet, and like you said, Arizona's not a team that has been fantastic either. So, and both the games are away from Chicago, which
Mm-hmm.
so he's going to be pitching in better parts. Uh, he's done a really, really good job of keeping men off of the base pass and not giving up too many home runs. And strikeouts have been just under a strikeout an inning. So yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know how much I believe in Erick Fedde from a skills perspective,
Sure.
but the results have been good enough. I mean, this is in some ways just Seth Lugo on a different team, right? Like it's like he, at some point you got to just keep rolling with him and hope that like the magic doesn't run out this week. But if Eddie was playing on a better team, we'd be having a lot more conversations about just how damn good
100% true.
he has been since returning from the KBO. But because he's in Chicago and that team sucks, we haven't really talked a ton about him. But he's been unreal good this season.
And those conversations will tune up quite a bit when he's traded, if he's still pitching well.
Do you think he's for
So,
sure traded? I mean, I
gotta
think he
be,
should
right?
be, but they've got him for
Gotta
another
be.
year of control at like $3 or $4 million. So like,
If anything, that makes me want to trade him more because now I can get an even better price, I think.
I mean,
Right?
they've had conversations about Garrett Crochet, who they've got for like 4 more years or
That's what I'm
something like
saying.
that.
So if he's open to being traded, then that's why I'm saying there's no universe where Fetty sticks. At least I don't think so. I don't think they should keep either of them. I don't think Crochet, even at 25, as a really interesting pitcher who's having a great season, I don't think he's part of their next great team. I think it makes a ton of sense to trade him. I actually applaud the White Sox for some of that rumoring coming out. We'll see if they actually trade him. And then
Yeah,
listen,
because Robert's been a huge rumor as well since
yep,
he came back and hit a home run in his return. So like, man, this could be like this is a team
tear
that's
it
only
down.
won 15 games so far, and like if they tear it completely down, do they win another 15? I mean, of course they do, but
Yes,
like
but it'll be rough. But they have to
yeah,
give up everything. Like I don't see anybody as untouchable on that team And that includes Robert and Crochet, who you might initially have said coming into the year, like, okay, well, everyone but them is available. I don't see any reason to keep either Robert or Crochet right now. Just get the whole Padres farm system, because that seems to be the only team that they trade with. That's where the Crochet rumors were, for those that did not hear them. But yeah, I'm trading everybody here. Nobody is very clearly a part of the next great White Sox team. Not Andrew Vaughn, not Luis Robert, not Garrett Crochet. Those are really the only three candidates that you could even think would be. And Erick Fedde, again, having a wonderful year.
I don't think Vaughn gets moved, but like,
well, because nobody wants him. Not because they can't possibly move the greatness that is Andrew Vaughn.
Nobody wants a mediocre first baseman.
Precisely. So yeah, that's why he's not getting moved.
Not with Goldschmidt likely getting traded at some point.
Yeah, there'll be other first basemen that are just offering a lot more than him. That's the problem. He plays first base. You can get away with this profile at an up the middle position, but he doesn't play that. So, all right. So Erick Fedde, we're on board, and we are, hoping for him to get traded sooner than later if he's on a roster of yours. Spencer Arrighetti has kind of turned things around a little bit after really, really rough start to his major league career. The classic fantasy mistake of just instantly discarding a guy as the worst pitcher ever when they have a bad debut happened with Arrighetti. And in fairness, his next two starts weren't that much better. He rebounded a bit against Atlanta after KC cooked him, but then immediately got trounced by the Cubs. So his first three starts, Arrighetti had a 10.97 ERA. I'm not saying everyone had to roster him and say, okay, I'm going to stick with him. But it took a while, even after a couple good starts, for people to be like, oh, yeah, this was a good prospect that a lot of people had some interest in coming into the year. Again, it's just that classic thing of when a prospect doesn't go off right away, people kind of move off of them. And Arrighetti, over his last 7, has a, palatable 4.25 ERA with 40 strikeouts in 36 innings. And he's even got 3 wins because the Astros are, kind of stabilizing things at least a little bit over there. So Arrighetti's going to get a trip to San Francisco, and Detroit, he gets the sleeper in the bus 2-step here. What do we think of Arrighetti against our teams?
I mean, I think you probably got to start him. I have him in kind of my lower tier as well this week. He walks a ton of guys. Even during this stretch, he's got the last 3 games, he's walked 3 in each start. So,
and he's not going a ton of innings, so that is a lot.
No, yeah. So, and part of it was he dealt with some sort of calf issue last week. He was supposed to have a 2-start this last week, and then he got pushed because he left his St. Louis game with a calf issue. But he's supposedly going to be making both of his starts. I think these are good enough matchups where you have to probably roll with him and just hope the walk issues don't come back to bite him. I think he has gotten a little bit unlucky, in the constrained departments. So I think overall he's going to be okay and may be able to sneak at least 1 dub, if not 2, against kind of mediocre talents or teams right here in our Giants and Tigers. But there is definitely, when you walk as many guys as Arrighetti walks, there's going to be risk. So in a 10-team league, I totally understand just kind of avoiding it. But I think in 12s and 15s, you're probably rolling with them because the matchups are good enough.
Yep, that's where I'm at with Arrighetti. The win potential isn't all the way back. Again, Houston's not, they're still 7 games under, but they're not as anemic as they were. I know it really is, but they've gone 18-16 since May 1st, but that 10-19 start to the season is, it's going to be a lot to turn that around. So they're still slowly turning that around, but they are a much more competent team now. And throughout all of this, we were telling folks not to just blindly start pitchers against Houston because it was always their pitching that was the problem. So guys like Arrighetti turning it around is huge for them. Jose Soriano is also on a West Coast 2-step. He's going to get Arizona and San Francisco. Oh, that's not the same as Fedde. Fedde getting Seattle and Arizona. But yeah, he's going to get a couple West Coast starts there. Obviously, the Angels are in the West Coast, but they're playing the NL West right now. What do we think of Jose Soriano? Has he graduated off even being talked about here, or is there still enough? Probably not. As much as I like him, I'm going to retract that instantly. But he has 3.64 ERA, 121 WHIP. If he had more Ks, maybe he would graduate, but he still doesn't quite translate the electric stuff into a ton of Ks. 55 and 64 innings for Soriano. But what do you think of the 25-year-old facing the Diamondbacks and Giants in their home parks?
You know who Jose Soriano kind of reminds me of a little bit
Hit me with
is
it.
Mitch Keller. Like a
God, that's
guy who
kind of good. That's kind of
a
a good
guy
one.
who has pretty damn good stuff when he's on, but sometimes he can't control it. You know he's going to go kind of deep into a game, but is that always a good thing when you can't control what you're doing? Sometimes he goes out there and he looks like one of the best pitchers in baseball, and then sometimes he goes out there and he just can't find the plate at all or is too hittable. You look at the last, 4 starts, he's gone at least 6 innings in each of these 4 starts, but in 2 of them gave up 4 runs and 2 of them gave up 1 run. In the last 2, he struck out 3 and then 1. The 2 previous that he struck out 8 and 5.
So kind of volatile.
Yeah, I just don't know how much I trust Soriano from a start-to-start basis. But again, you're going up against 2 kind of mediocre offenses in good pitching parks. I think you're rolling with him in 12s and 15s. I think in 10s, it really just depends on what you got.
Yep, I think that's exactly it with Soriano. I would slot him just a bit above Suárez, who we liked in 12s and 15s, and then said probably not in 10s, leaning, if you can get away from it. Soriano would be above him because Suárez has tougher matchups, but I would see them similarly in 10s where you probably don't have to, but if you're scraping, I don't hate Soriano in 10s. He falls victim to the one bad inning. Go look at any of his crummy starts, almost always 3-run innings somewhere in the mix. And it's not even always the last one. So it's not like that he's consistently running out of gas or things like that. It's just, once kind of that merry-go-round gets going, he can struggle. Maybe he throws in a walk or 2 and then the timely hit, and boom, all of a sudden you got a crooked number in an inning. But if he can iron that out, I really do think that there's quite a bit of upside for Soriano. I'm really, really, really excited about his long-term prospects, both within the rest of this year and beyond. So in dynasties, I like him too. And, if lower end team in your dynasty league has him and you're competing, I'd be down to going out and buying Soriano because I think he can help you this year while still being somebody for the future too. If they just want baby prospects type of vibe. Jesús Luzardo, a name by name value doesn't belong on here, but by performance, absolutely does, Justin. He has, sorry, hang on, I'm getting his ratings here, or his results. 5.30 ERA, 125 whip. So the whip isn't horrendous, especially when Luzardo's off. You're generally going to think, okay, he's walking the yard, and that's why things are going south. Walk rate isn't terrible, but the homers, 1.1, that puts you in some trouble there if they're multi-run homers. The walk rate is at 8%, which is about league average. The strikeouts are way down, Justin. He's not missing bats as much, 23% for Jesús Luzardo. How are we feeling?
Oh, man. I mean, if you had just cut off that last start, things would be.
I didn't give you the
right.
matchups. I'm so sorry. At the Mets, at Washington for Luzardo. My fault.
Yeah, if you didn't care about that last matchup, if we had talked about this on Monday, I'd probably feel a lot better when he goes out and gets shellacked in his last outing. The velocity is down, which he dealt with an elbow issue, and he pitched fairly well returning from the elbow issue, but the velocity is down a little bit, which is a little bit concerning. I wonder if he is still hurting, and if this is just like kind of a ticking time bomb kind of situation. I don't know how you get away from these matchups. The Mets aren't great. Washington's not very good. But I am a little bit concerned about Luzardo just health-wise. I think that's a problem for later for the most part. You kind of look, he's done a pretty good job, excluding this last start at limiting home runs and limiting walks. I think he's going to be okay as long as he's healthy. I just don't know how long he's going to be healthy for.
Yeah, and that's always the concern with Luzardo. That's a concern with every pitcher. I know we say that a lot, but it's just so true. But he's obviously had some health issues in the past too. So again, if you're saying every pitcher has a pretty high risk for injury, some guys are higher. Luzardo would be in that higher group because of his
he
previous
throws
history.
so violently. It's just
Yes.
like, I mean, he's not a guy who has got like this smooth delivery. You go, oh, he's going to last a while. You watch Luzardo pitch and you wonder every pitch
You're like,
that arm's going to come flying off
crap.
with the ball. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is part of what makes him electric. I'd like to see the strikeouts go back up. But with the Mets and Washington here, even though they're both on the road and he doesn't have great support with the Marlins, I do think I'm getting there in a lot of the deeper and medium formats. Again, in 10s, how about this? Suárez, Soriano, Luzardo in 10-teamers. Rank them.
Who are the three?
Soriano, Luzardo, and Albert Suárez.
Ooh, that's tough. I think I'm going Soriano, Suárez, Luzardo.
That's exactly where I'm at. That's exactly where I'm going.
I might put Luzardo above Suárez only because I am just a little worried about the matchups and his ability to go deep into a game right now. So
I think that is fair. It is definitely Soriano step down, and then those two, Suárez and Luzardo, kind of like really close, kind of overlapping.
If you had asked me this at the start of the season, I would have looked at you like you were fucking crazy.
You mean Ranger Suárez? No. Somebody named Albert Suárez.
Yeah. And I've never been a Luzardo guy. Like I mean, I've always kind of hated on Luzardo. But it's mostly from a season-long perspective where I'm worried about the injury.
Yeah. But it is kind of frustrating that things haven't gone super well for him, but hopefully he can get back on track. What about Tobias Myers here for the Brewers? This one is actually a bit tentative too. I don't know because like
he's starting today. There was an announcement about an hour ago, so I don't even know if he's going to be on.
It will not be him then.
Yeah.
And then they have Ashby like penciled in for Monday. It's not confirmed because then he could maybe be the 2-step. Let's just skip Montreal, Paul. Let's just skip Milwaukee for now because Ashby, I'm not there. I still root for him, but I'm not there. And frankly, I wouldn't have been there for Tobias Myers either. So let's just go ahead and skip that and move on to Chris Paddack with the Twins. I am leaving Pablo Lopez off. I know the Yankees cooked him and things went terribly. He had like 42 billion walks. I got to be honest, I don't care. Pablo Lopez not coming out of the lineup. So I didn't put him on the list.
Especially not against Colorado and Oakland. I mean,
Colorado and Oakland both at home for Paddack. That's an easy yes in 15s. I think it's a pretty easy yes in 12s. Are you getting there in 10s? And if so, where does he go in our little, or actually him versus Suárez? We can just play King of the Hill there as far as those 10-teamers. I don't have
Soriano.
to make. Yeah, who did I say?
Suárez.
Oh, yeah. Soriano, because that's who the King of the Hill is right now. So what do you think of Paddack in the shallower formats? Talk about him and then give us your thoughts on him v. Soriano.
Man, every time I think Paddack is starting to like really put things together, and I'm like, okay, we're going to start seeing the Paddack that we saw in 2019.
He pulls the rug out from under you.
He does. He just becomes so damn hittable. And the strikeouts disappear. And then, like this last start, it wasn't a good one. Like 4 innings, he gave up 7 earned runs, but he got 7 strikeouts in those 4 innings.
Did you watch that game?
I haven't yet. No.
So I felt kind of bad for him. Like, he had the brutal start. It was a bookend situation. 5 hits, 4 runs in the first. Okay, gets clocked. I get it. You know, you kind of expect that going in.
At the Yankees, yeah.
Dials in. This is at the Yankees. Dials in for 3 perfect innings. I mean, literally, no hits, no walks, 6 punchies. Oh my God, he's going to salvage this start. 2 walks, a hit in the 5th. All 3 of them score. And it's a rotten outing. I felt like he was on that cusp. And that's just the danger of the Yankees, though, too.
Yeah.
So, like, this is the volatility that we live in where, you know, somebody even pitching, I wouldn't say his best stuff, but some of his higher end stuff, and things were going well after a disastrous first inning. Boom, he falters off a little bit in the 5th. Diego Castillo comes in and lets a couple guys in, because that was the thing too, was that he allowed some of those guys to score for Paddack, but Paddack put him on. So yeah, that was tough, but I did take some solace in that start going into Yankee Stadium, and I wasn't starting him there anyway, so I didn't have to eat the 7 earnies. But now looking at him against Colorado and Oakland, I'm all in. I'll start him in any format next week. Chris Paddack.
Yeah, I think I would too. I mean, you look at these last 5 starts, and while they haven't been very good for Paddack, they've also been against some of the best teams in baseball. He had the
Yes.
Yankees twice. He got at Cleveland, and he was home versus Kansas City and Texas. Like, those are really good offense.
He deserves this, Colorado, Oakland. Oh my
So
God.
I feel like this is a really nice reprieve that you should be taking advantage of.
Yep, we're all aboard the Chris Paddack train. Oakland has a couple of two-step guys, and we've talked about it throughout the year that, like, okay, they're still bad, but they're kind of medium bad, where you're not completely devoid of win potential. They are out of the Colorado White Sox tier. I think even the Marlins are probably worse than them. So with the A's, they've had some somewhat appealing pitching. Joey Estes and JP Sears are both getting a two-step next week, and they're going to go to San Diego and Minnesota. So the matchups are certainly not easy. Let's start with Estes. He's coming off a really nice outing. Was that against the Mariners, I believe? What do we think about what Estes is up to? 6 1/3, 1-hit ball last time out with no walks, 5 Ks against the Mariners. Now, you and I could get 3-4 strikeouts against the Mariners, but Estes was pretty good at Tampa Bay before that, and not bad against Colorado at home before that. 7 innings, 4 runs. 4 runs, not great, but I'll take the 7 innings. Where do you come out on Joey Estes, who has a 0.96 whip in 27 innings this year?
Yeah, I really got to sit down and watch one of his starts. I
watched the Seattle one.
Done it. Yeah. Unfortunately, I get blacked out from the Oakland game.
Oh yeah,
so
of course you do. God.
Yeah.
Nightmare.
And I'm just not willing to like actually watch it on Comcast when because it's Oakland.
Yeah.
But so I got to sit down and watch it. Kind of numbers scouting wise, I mean, he's got a good fastball and he's had great control and command this year. He is fairly hittable, and so I mean, have you watched him pitch at all? Like, the secondary stuff just doesn't grade out.
With Estes, really well. I saw the Seattle start. Now, part of that is like, how much do you put in on somebody cooking one of the worst offenses going? But I was not enamored with his secondary stuff, which is what you're hitting on, is that it's not the best. But I do like, and it is so rare these days to see somebody who is fastball dominant and leans into it. Like, everyone's shaving their fastball rates under 40% these days. I'm being a little bit hyperbolic, but yeah, he's at 57 and it works for Estes. I would like to see something else develop. I will say, at least he has the pitches, meaning they are options he can go to with the slider and the changeup and even a show me cutter. But that slider right now is not in a spot where I'm going to trust Estes a lot. And with these matchups, I'm a little bit nervous because both San Diego and Minnesota can pop you, and neither of them are at home. So while I am intrigued by him and he's firmly on the watch list, it's a maybe in 15s, just because, again, we're going to keep reiterating the dearth of talent in 15s. 10s and 12s, I'm out on Estes.
Yeah, I think I'm with you right there.
I encourage you, if you do watch one of his starts, if you go back and watch one, cool. If not, watch one next week and let me know what you think of the slider. Because you can, it's one of those that's in and out. You can see some of them when he snaps it off, you're like, that's it right there. But it's so inconsistent to me. The fastball is awesome. I do like that, but I'd like to see more from the secondary stuff for Estes to trust him. I have a little bit more confidence in teammate JP Sears, who's getting the same matchups. I don't know if it's enough to get me there in 10s and 12s, but I'm a good bit more on board for Sears in the 15-team realm. He has 4 wins on the year and 9 decisions. He's 4-5, 3.93 ERA, 109 WHIP. Hey, guess who was all over JP Sears last year when he put up a 4.54 ERA and a 127 WHIP? Both Justin and I. So classic year early situation. That said, I did stick with him. I do have him in some leagues right now. I didn't draft him anywhere. These are DCs that I have him. Or I meant to say I didn't draft him in any waiver league. I drafted him in those 50-man rosters. So I have a little bit of Sears. So at least I didn't quit after a rough year. But good to see him coming around. What do you think of JP Sears? I think he's a little bit more bankable than Estes. Do you see it similarly?
Yeah, I do. I mean, the big problem with Sears is that he puts a lot of balls in the air, which can sometimes bite him. But
it works in that park, but maybe not in road parks.
Yeah. Luckily, I think for him, because you said he's got San Diego, which is 17th in park factors.
So yeah, not as scary over there. Where's Minnesota?
Minnesota is 13th. So they're both kind of middle of the pack.
Middling, yeah.
But
we can live with that.
Oakland is park to pitch in.
Yes.
So there's a little bit of concerns. Both these teams are pretty good and on the road, but I think Sears has pitched well enough where in 15s you're definitely using them. I think 10s and 12s I'm probably not, just because the lower win potential being on the road. I think he's a 15-team kind of team streamer right now. I just wish there was more strikeouts from Sears. I feel like we've seen
exactly what I was going to bring up next.
Strikeout stuff from Sears in the past. And it almost feels like this year that he's kind of trying to not punch guys out, but get out of innings a little bit quicker, which, I mean, it's working. And he's not giving up nearly as many home runs as he has in the that he did last year. But like, I think he's sacrificing some of that stuff for safety, which is a little disappointing from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it with the strikeouts. And, you know, he's had trouble bringing them from the minors because JP Sears got strikeouts in the minors, had some nice swing and miss stuff, and that was part of the allure and why I liked him so much. I was like, okay, he'll figure that out on the major league stage a little bit. And incidentally, I didn't even realize where his rates were, but I brought up how people are like pushing away from fastballs, and then Estes is going the other way. Sears is very much in that camp. 50% fastball rate last year, 30 this year. Shaved 20 percentage points off of it, funneled it in partly to a sinker that he's throwing 10% of the time, but then otherwise just amped up his slider and changeup usage. It isn't translating into swings and misses, but it is translating into success. And I do like that. He's not walking a ton of guys. He's keeping, you know, the hits aren't too plentiful. And the BABIP, you can run a lower BABIP when you're a big fly ball guy like that. Usually the trade-off is homers, but then maybe that's where the park comes in for Sears. So there's elements to like, we like him in deep leagues this week. Be careful in your shallower formats. Maybe if he was on a better team, I'd feel a little bit more confident. This one is not.
I was just saying his ERA on the road is like a full run.
He's a classic home streamer. JP Sears is, and Oakland pitchers are like that a lot, but especially these ones when the team isn't very good, you're just trying to set them up in the best position possible. Even though this guy has a trip to Colorado, I am not putting him on the list to ask you about whether you're starting him. Of course, Paul Skenes is an auto start in every format. I just want to discuss him a little bit because I don't really think we have. And the battle against the Dodgers was awesome. The punch-counter punch with him and Ohtani was some of the best baseball we've seen this year. Punches him out in the first. But badass homer to deep center in I think was a third or fourth inning there for Ohtani. He comes back with his own, and that was just great. That was just great baseball there, mano y mano, and each got a punch landed. So Skenes, you know, he survived against the Yankees, or excuse me, against the Dodgers. 3 runs in 5 innings with 8 Ks and a win. I'll take that all day. And I was starting him against the Dodgers, him and Jared Jones. I know it's scary, but I'm a start your studs kind of guy. So he's going to St. Louis and Colorado. Again, who gives a shit about that? You're starting him everywhere. I'm just curious where you're at on him. Has it been all it's been, you know, promised to be? Do you think he's going to be a league winner? What's been the Skenes experience for you? And do you have him anywhere?
I have him in one DC, where I just, it was kind of like, I think it was my last DC that I did before, you know, I started doing my kind of regular drafts. And it was kind of like, I just want a share. I just want one share to make sure, because I knew I wasn't going to be able to like stash him in the majority of my formats, right? So, man, I wish I had. I wish I got him everywhere. I think he's a top. I know he's a top 20 pitcher. Let me just say that. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that he's a top 20 pitcher as long as he's healthy rest of the way. The question is he a top 10 pitcher?
I mean, that's, I'm not answering affirmatively. I'm saying, that's like the next thing to discuss really with Skenes.
I think there's a massive argument for him because I'm just looking at like our player rater over the last 30 days. Because it came up at May 11th, I think it was. So we're getting pretty close to that being like a 30-day window. And he's 18th right now. But some of the names above him, we are sure do not belong above him. Including,
they're just running hot.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Waldron, no, come on, like
he's so scary with that knuckler.
Mitch Keller, no. Clark Schmidt is hurt. And then we start having conversations like Jack Flaherty. I mean, how much should we? I'm a believer,
I
but I'm
believe in
not.
Flaherty. I am a believer, but at the same time, I'm not sure that they're terribly far apart. Do you know where Nick has
No,
Skenes? 14th. So he's with
that's
you.
crazy.
Nick Pollock's there
No,
with
but
you.
he's right. Like,
No, exactly. And I've always credited like Nick. Nick goes for it with the rookies. You know, our friend Derek Carty, we've talked about it in the past how he gets some hell with his bat model, not loving rookies. It's the other way for Nick. When a rookie comes up and they are expected to be the dude and he has data on how good their stuff is, if he believes in them, he ranks them right away. He doesn't take the wait and see ranking. So he jumped
mhm.
Skenes into the rankings. I think he jumped him in as a top 25 guy and then has slowly moved him up here to 14th. And I don't think I disagree with it. I think when
Yeah.
my June ranking comes out in a couple weeks, I'm gonna have no less than like teens
Yeah.
between 14 and 18, just eyeballing it right now. And I might
I
even
think
have him a little higher than Nick. And I'm not saying that to like one up Nick. I'm saying Nick might move him up next week and I might be there with him ascending Paul Skenes into that top 12 range.
the only thing that has me a little more cautious is the Pirates in general.
Sure.
Will the Pirates shut him down? And should we be thinking about that in terms of not necessarily like on a week to week basis, but like right now you could trade Paul Skenes for a top 25 hitter, right?
Yep.
Like, shouldn't you? Especially if your pitching is okay.
Only if your pitching's okay in a redraft league. Otherwise, and I wouldn't even necessarily, I'm not saying you have to do it then. I'm saying I would only even consider it if my pitching was really strong in a redraft league, would I consider trading Skenes, because the second you start to think you have pitching depth, just like with a real life team,
Yeah.
life happens and shit goes upside down. So I'm not looking to trade him necessarily, but okay, say I hit on a bunch of guys. I got Suárez, I got Flaherty, I got some aces that we already knew coming
You
into
got
the year,
how,
Glass now
yeah.
or whatever. Like shit's going
Yeah.
well. And I got Skenes and now he's cooking. I'm open to trading a big time back because you
Yeah.
can get, I mean, you can get Rafael Devers, can't you?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, it's not an egregious offer. Not everyone who has Devers would say yes, but I think enough people would that you can absolutely make that offer.
Yeah.
So I am open to it there, but otherwise, don't be looking to trade him if you don't have to. Don't worry about the innings limit or anything. Let Skenes go where he goes because it's
Yeah.
just
I
great
just worry.
having.
Well, they're not like they're only like what 2 or 3 games below 500. Like they're
Yeah, they're
still fifth
not
in that division.
terrible.
Like that whole
I know.
division is competitive, and I just don't see the Pirates being able to one be aggressive at the deadline because they are never aggressive at the deadline, and two like being able to just hang with all 5 of these or all 4 of these teams
They need a
in
run.
this
They need a
division.
run.
Yeah,
They're 29
they
and
need the run that they
33.
had at the beginning of the season. Is what they need.
Exactly. They need to get out. And honestly, because that was only like what would they start off like 9-2. It's just a run like that, like an 11
Yeah.
game. I'm not saying that it's easy to do that, but I'm saying they don't have to be great for a month. They just need to get a hot run, and maybe this could spur it here because you know, Minnesota, that's a tough team, but they can beat them, and then they go to St. Louis and Colorado. That'd be a nice place to get going. Get the bats going in Colorado for crying out loud. I know they don't have a great offense, but like they are going to need a run. The Pirates will, and if they are competitive, I do think they would leave Jones and Skenes to mostly just pitch unencumbered. But absent that, they will start to manipulate their innings and play with them. And even though it doesn't work doing that, I understand why teams do it. You're going to try your best, whatever you think the best model is, even though we don't have a great model for saving pitchers. I would probably just let him pitch while he's pitching, and I wouldn't really do any sort of innings limiting. But I'm also not a major league GM. I'm just a OOTP dork. All right, moving on from Skenes. Again, that was not a will you start him or not. That was how great is he and how much do you love him type of vibe. Kyle Harrison, double hosting. So I'm already starting off on a decent foot there. He's at home for 2. It's Houston and the Angels. So kind of a 1-up, 1-down situation there for Kyle Harrison. Is he doing enough for you to be a consideration across which formats?
Whew, Harrison, I just don't trust him, and I don't think we should. Like, he'll go out and he'll throw like his last outing. I know, like it doesn't look amazing from like a result standpoint, but like got 5 strikeouts in 6 innings, no walks, didn't get
No
any
walks
home
was my
runs.
takeaway there
Yeah.
because he had at least a walk in every game in May. So to get a 0 walker there was nice,
including a
for
5
Harrison.
walk game against Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I just think he's so inconsistent start to start.
Yep.
And well, I don't mind the Angels matchup. The Houston one scares the crap out of me. So I think he's a 15-team guy for me. I know a lot of people like him a lot more than I ever have. And he has shown moments in which I go, okay, maybe there is something really here in Harrison. Like, I do think he has good stuff. But I just, again, I think he's very Mitch Keller-esque. He's very Jose Soriano-esque, where, like, some nights he's going to come out there and just blow you away. And then other nights you're going to be like, oh, God, is he even a major league pitcher at this point?
Yeah.
I think if he was pitching in a different park, like, we probably wouldn't be talking about Kyle Harrison, because that park is the best park to pitch in a baseball for home runs. Now, both of these starts are at home, so I get wanting to use them, but that Houston team is just, man, they're so tough. I just 15-teamers only for me this week.
That's exactly where I'm at with Harrison. 15-teamers only. I just can't get on board elsewhere. Same reasons that you have, the inconsistency, the lack of like total swing and miss stuff just hasn't been there for him. So be careful with Kyle Harrison. But, you know, I will be keeping tabs on him too, because this is a guy that is in a development phase. He is 22 years old. He could develop within this year, can develop next year. Like, he's not off my board entirely. I do not hate Kyle Harrison. I'm just not a huge fan of him right now. Ryan Pepiot, this is 10-teamers only, because I think in 12s and 15s, you're rolling with him. He has not been bad, but it is a pretty difficult two-step. And there's been some bumps, like a 3.96 ERA. I do have to remember sometimes, like in a 10, anything like approaching a 4 ERA is pretty lame. Obviously, anything under a 4 ERA in a 15-teamer is gold. But in a 10-teamer, that's not so good. There is a great whip, though, at least, 0.96 for Pepiot. But he gets Baltimore and then a trip to Atlanta. Are you sticking with Pepiot everywhere? Is he an all-formats guy for you right now, Ryan Pepiot of the Rays?
Yeah, I think he is. I think there is, like, just so much upside in Pepiot's arm. And, like, we have seen, like, a 29% strikeout rate. And, man, I think it could go higher. Like, I love Pep. He is so good at missing bats inside of the zone. Like, he can throw in the zone and just make you swing through it. And I think, I know these are tough matchups. I know he's had, you know, some bumpy starts, but I think he's just young and developing. And the Rays are probably the best in the business in terms of developing young pitching. So I think he has all the stuff in the world to be a top 15, top 20 starter. And he's just not leaving my lineup.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with Pep. You know, I was very big on Pepiot coming into the year. There's like some early bumps where you're like, oh gosh, is everything all right there? Didn't he go on the IL? Yeah, that was the bump. Yeah. Really was the IL. If everything was going to be all right there, because the results have been good throughout the year. I think he's been kind of a little bit underrated because the Rays kind of stink. So there hasn't been as much like, oh, Pepiot, this guy rules, but he's been ruling, and I love him. I am starting him everywhere. I just want to ask for the 10-teamers that might be a little bit nervous because of the matchups. I think Pepiot's a set and forget. I just didn't want my bias to be the only reason driving it, so I wanted to check in with somebody else.
If he could just change like the grip or something on his changeup to just get better movement, like, I think he is a star in the making.
A tweak away, Pepiot is.
Yeah, I think
Patrick Corbin. I'm being sort of serious here, but only because of the matchups and your undying love for him. So you can't be laughing or anything as if you don't adore Patrick Corbin. But it's at Detroit and home to Miami. Is there a format where you would start him? I'm not going to ask you 10s and 12s and all that, but is there a format?
I mean, NL only, you're probably starting him, right? Like,
maybe. He's still so scary, dude.
It is.
Even with these great matchups, I'm like, I don't think so.
I mean, like, out of his last, 7 starts, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quality starts.
Okay. I did not know that. Credit where it's due to Corbin.
Actually, no, sorry. Two of those he didn't go 6, so they're not quality starts. But
the earned runs were there.
The earned runs were there. So that's still 3 of his last 7 starts where he's gone quality starts, and 5 of his last 7 starts where he has been decent enough.
And you could have gotten away from one of those. I think Minnesota, in a world where you're starting Corbin, where he has any consideration, you could have gotten away from the Minnesota one.
Your 70 team league,
Yeah, you probably ate the Mets one, though. You're like, oh, Mets at home. I'll give him a shot. He's been doing all right. He had 2 quality starts coming into that, but you wore that one. Although if we're playing that game, we have to say that you probably wouldn't have started him at Cleveland when he did have a quality start. So it's hard. I put him on usually as a meme, because I go in team alphabetical order, so Washington's always last. But I was a little bit serious this week because it is at Detroit and home to Miami.
When I was putting guys in the tiers that I'm going to be writing about, or that I am currently writing about, like I was like, man, do I put Patrick Corbin in a tier I actually write about, or do I just put him in the bottom tier that I don't even write about?
You might have to give him a little tinge of love.
I'm not gonna. Like, you shouldn't.
How dare you? How dare you quit on?
No, this
your former BFF.
It's funny because when Patrick Corbin kind of first came into the league and then found real success in Arizona, I hated Patrick Corbin. I was always the anti-Patrick Corbin. And then I finally jump on and he has one good year. And then he's atrocious after that.
And you've been wearing all the bad ones.
And I've just been wearing all the bad ones. And so finally I jumped off last year and there's no way I'm getting back on. I mean, I'm glad he got his payday because I just always want to see guys get paid. I don't even care if
and he had a lot of good years, right? So sometimes you got to consider he's getting paid for those years. I know that the current years are going crappy, but he was making league minimum when he was putting up 4 WARs. So, and what do you care where that money goes? Because it wasn't going to go to you anyway, unless you're another player. Maybe then you could be upset. But yeah, Corbin, we're not starting him anywhere. You can maybe consider NL only. Probably that was probably the right answer. It's okay, I might do something there, but I wouldn't even really be that interested in it. I could get there, but I would still be scared as hell with Patrick Corbin. All right, Justin, I got to head out of here, get some work done before the weekend. What do you got going on this weekend? Are you and Jason getting together on Sunday?
I believe we are because I think after that he's going to be taking a couple weeks off and I'll probably be bringing some guests in. So we should be recording this week. I'm heading to a concert here in a few hours. So yeah,
what are we seeing?
The Teskey Brothers.
I'm unfamiliar.
Me too. But
okay. Are we going?
One of Danielle's favorite bands. I think they're Australian.
Okay.
Play kind of folky kind of
the
music.
Teskey Brothers. Oh, no, I can't do accents.
Yeah.
I should never try.
So we're gonna be heading down to Oakland and going to see Teskey Brothers tonight. So
that sounds great, man. I love getting out, seeing live music when I can. Although I'm such an old sack of shit, Justin, that I have to wear earplugs at concerts.
I'm not a big music guy. My other hobbies and ventures kind of take precedent. If I'm listening to something, it's usually a podcast. So or watching, something in the background. I just finished an unbelievable series heard on Apple TV.
What's
if
it called?
You're into Blackbird. Now it's dark.
Blackbird,
it's really dark. It's a serial killer based on a true story type thing. With Taron Egerton is the star.
Oh, I have heard about that. Yeah. I now once you mentioned him, I have heard about that.
Six episodes, really, really fast watch. But man, oh my god,
dark, real dark,
super dark. Oh, really dark. Don't watch at night type of thing.
Okay, good to know. Good warning there with Blackbird on Apple. I only have Apple because of the baseball games, so it worked. They got me. I want to be able to watch those games, and I know there's other ways, folks. I'm not like some purist who's never taken a look at a. You've never used a different kind of link for baseball games?
I refuse to.
I respect that. I do respect that.
For baseball games, I would be more open to doing it. I just I've never pirated anything, only because when I was in college, I took a communications class because it was required, and like we talked about the ethical ramifications of pirating, and like
you wouldn't
pirating is one of
download
the
a car.
yeah, and
Do you remember those?
Yeah, those commercials
Those
back in
like
the
those
90s.
ads back in the day. They're like, you wouldn't pirate a car. Like, if I could, yes, I would, motherfucker.
Yeah,
What are you talking
absolutely.
about?
Yeah,
Of
I would
course, I'd
love to be a
steal a
pirate.
car if I could
would actually,
download one.
I would actually steal a car way before I would steal music.
Right? There's at least practical use for it. But
Yeah,
no, I do
exactly.
get it. But like I said, I am paying for the Apple stuff, so I'm not even
Can't wait for the
using that. But I do.
1-star reviews for people being like, Justin's a purist.
Unbelievable. Those face are shit. But all right. Well, have a great time at the concert. We will be back on Monday. And good luck to your teams as well. Have a good one.
Take it easy.